We start with the latest round of trade talks between the UK and EU. Negotiators have just over a month left to strike a deal in time for it to come into force on January 1st, but both sides have admitted that they haven't made much progress. The UK's chief Brexit negotiator, Lord Frost, has called for more realism from Brussels. His EU counterpart, Michel Barnier, says London wants the best of both worlds. The latest talks come amid concerns for the withdrawal agreement as the government works on new legislation in case the negotiations fail. Joining me now from London, our correspondent Benedicte Paviot. Benedicte, both parties, back round the table, but there's no shortage of bad feeling after what I just mentioned there. There's a war of words on the withdrawal agreement.
Well, the clock is ticking more and more loudly. The hard stop is the 31st of December of this year. The EU, we know the UK left the EU on the 31st of January. Let's remember we're in a transition period, which means that the United Kingdom is actually following still EU rules. Now we have much more sabre rattling. That was eminently predictable. The volume has got increasingly louder over here in the last 48 hours. Because of the COVID pandemic, Brexit had really gone off the headlines here, and it's made a huge comeback, as I said, in the last 48 hours. So David Frost, the UK's Brexit negotiator, has been making various statements. So has the top boss, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. And David Frost has been calling, as you said, for more what he called realism from the EU. And by that, the UK government means that the EU must really treat the United Kingdom as a sovereign, independent state. And the British position is that the EU is not doing so. So we have this 8th round of talks. We could describe it as not just tension, you're quite right, but as some ill feeling almost. Both parties say that there can still be a deal and that they both want a deal. What's the new part is that the Prime Minister has now given a date. Boris Johnson has said that the United Kingdom is prepared to walk away from the talks if a deal isn't done by the 15th of October. The EU says it will do everything it can to reach that deal. But this new date, of course, which anyway would be needed because the EU had actually already made that clear, since let's remember the 27 other EU states of the EU have to also ratify if there is a deal.
And what if there isn't? What if these negotiations fail, Benedicte?
Well, so deal or no deal, if the negotiations fail, whether that's in this 8th round in the coming days or certainly in the next 4 to 5 weeks by that deadline now set actually by both parties. So there is consensus there, consensus on wanting a deal, that there is time for a deal, and consensus that it needs to be really agreed before the 15th of October. If it fails, well, then the United Kingdom will revert to WTO, World Trade Organization rules. And where the tension and the ratcheting and the sabre rattling has increased is that Boris Johnson in the last 24 hours hasn't just said that the UK would be prepared to walk away from the table, but that it would do mightily well whether there is a deal or no deal. So clearly, how much of this is posturing from the UK or indeed from the EU is not known. And where it's got even more tense, as you also referred to in your introduction, is this legislation that was suddenly announced 48 hours ago, that the United Kingdom is going to introduce legislation to possibly override the withdrawal agreement that was agreed not by another government, not by another prime minister, but by this same government, this same Prime Minister. And that is seen by the EU, certainly, and the wider world, as a real possible breach of an international agreement. So we can see that the tension is high, the sabre rattling is very much on the agenda. Michel Barnier has arrived in London. The 8th round is about to start. Will we get any further clarity later on today? Possibly not. We may need to wait 48 hours before each side, the UK and the EU, as they have done over the last few weeks, June, July, August, set out more clearly their official positions. But at the moment, this does not bode well.
All right, thank you very much, Benedicte Paviot in London.